Your ears do not deceive you. You have just entered the Cryptid Creator Corner, brought to you by your friends at Comic Book Yeti. So without further ado, let's get on to the interview.
Hello and welcome to Comic Book Yeti's Cryptid Creator Corner. I am one of your hosts, Jimmy Gasparo, and I have returning guests, and I can't believe it has been a few years since they've been on the podcast, but they are back, and they're back with their new Kickstarter for the Laundrymen Book Two. It is going to hit Kickstarter on February 2nd. We're going to talk all about it, but please welcome back to the podcast, Steven, Kaul, and Lyndon Radchenka. Steven, Lyndon, how have you been?
I would say pretty good, productive, in a sense.
Busy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very busy. Yeah.
I was so excited when I don't know if I first saw it on like social media or in a Discord or maybe if it was Lyndon had just like reached out to me, but I was so excited to see that, you know, my favorite laundromat owning monster hunters were coming back, and having gotten to read like a preview, a little sneak peek of book 2, I was not disappointed. I just love this. You know what it is? I really love the spirit of this series. Like I just it just makes me happy getting to read it and seeing what Bryan and Wade are up to. And I like how they spend, not to spoil anything, but I do
We
like
can spoil
how
the whole thing. It's all good.
Oh, can we? Oh, okay.
I'm
I
totally fine with it.
I did just want to say I really like how they spend a good part of this book kind of like, you know, away from each other. I really feel like that's like a really kind of interesting element of it. It makes it feel like, you know, fresher or fresh from like book 1, but it still has that spirit. It still has that kind of like drive and that kind of like energy. And yeah, it's just it's a really fun comic. It looks really great. It's a really good time. I was so happy getting to read it again, and that you know, other fans are going to have an opportunity to back book 2.
Soon.
Um,
Yeah.
so why don't you just catch, you know, listeners up on, you know, if for anyone who isn't familiar, like what is the Laundrymen, and what do we have going on in book 2? Who wants to go first?
So the Laundryman is we're calling it a series, but we're just at book 2 now. It's about these two monster hunters, like you say, Wade and Bryan, and they operate a laundromat and they solve supernatural mysteries. So they're these sort of like mercenary monster hunters for hire. And our first book, which we came out and chatted with you about, 3 years ago, Jimmy. We kickstarted it. It was really successful. It opened all these doors for us professionally, and it was sort of what we call the first case file of the Laundrymen. So it was Wade and Bryan going to Wade's old hometown, and they're investigating this murder mystery, and it's the two of them working together to sort of uncover this monster that's been killing people. And then at the very end of that book, we have them return to the laundromat, and Bryan ends up sort of unceremoniously stuffed into a van. And this book picks up right where that one ends up, or right where that one ended. And it ends up being this, I keep, not disparagingly so, but I feel like I'm entering my schlocky era. The concept of this book is like the alien mob versus the vampire mob, and both of these guys end up on opposite sides of this fight, and really what they're trying to do is find their way back to each other for the whole thing. And so the book is dressed up as this monster gang war, and really it's about what will you do as to help your friends, is how I would describe it. And Steven's art is amazing compared to 3 years ago.
Yeah. I'm pretty stoked on it. It's eons ahead of what you see in the first book. So it feels really good.
Now, Steven, is that something that you know, like you notice right away, like, oh, I've been working at it and I've been working at it and I can tell myself that I'm getting better? Or are you the type of artist that, you know, I've interviewed quite a few artists before, and it takes somebody else to come along and say, wow, like, Steven, this stuff's great.
Oh, Yeah, no, I would say I'm more column A there. It's like
Okay.
that's one of the driving like feelings that keeps me moving to the next page in the next book, because I look at drawing comics as like just a series of problems to solve. And I might try for like page after page after page to like understand a concept. And then when I finally execute on page 10 or whatever, I finally figured out how to do this thing. I'm just like, oh, I did that. It's amazing. I did this thing. And then I can just keep moving forward. Like in this book, you'll notice there's a lot of like action scenes, car chases, stuff like that. And that in the script, that was like left really up to me to figure out. Lyndon was off that day. So, but,
I take a lot of days off.
but, leaving that up to me to figure out, that was also leaving me with like in the director's chair as far as like panels and like the layout and the passage of time, but as well as like one's a car chase. So now I have to figure out how to draw like multiple cars at multiple angles and stuff like that. So every time I do something good, it feels like a success. So I can always see the progression, and you can see the progression from book to book, but also within the book because it's over a period of time from like page one of this book to the final page. I can see just like a major change in myself and my skill. And I hope other people see that too. I think I look at that as a feature of the book, as opposed to like, oh, this guy took some time.
One of the things I wanted to say in terms of like the scale of some of the panels in particular, like early on, because we open up with Brian stuck in the van, and then when we see where Brian ends up, and we're kind of figuring out like where Brian is as Brian figures it out. And there is a really great panel where we kind of see Brian through like a big window, big glass paneling. And when that flips, so we see the other side of it, and we get a little bit of like a bigger scope of exactly what Brian has gotten himself into. That was one of my favorite panels. I thought the whole scope and scale of it looked great. I loved seeing, the stuff, the ship or the everything going on in the background, like all of that to kind of, it felt like because you have a smaller panel where we see Brian, and then you've really opened it up so that Brian and two of the other like alien mob guys are kind of with him in the foreground, and you really feel like as the reader that like because we're brought right in that moment that we're as in over our head as Brian is. Like I really love that paneling effect. I thought that was very, smartly done, and it was, exciting to see all of that. And I just love the design of it. I love the colors. I just thought that really took me to a really fun place reading the story. Like if you weren't hooked by that point, you were then.
hmm I appreciate hearing that. And, like, I really love like that scene, that exact scene you're talking about, and the build up to it. It's like what you were saying there about like we're as in over our head as Brian reading. I never thought of it that way, but it's like you're going along the ride with him, and you're seeing this unassuming place initially kind of open up and more rooms, and you're like, what's all in here? And then like, yeah, you eventually get the scope of this thing. You're like, where the heck is he? Um, Especially with that huge pull out shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I really love your world building in there, Steven. If I recall, like you have all these things going on in the background as Brian is running through these hallways, and I don't think many of those details were in the script. There may have been like, oh, maybe this is going on, maybe there's an experiment going on here, but you really went the extra mile to flesh out the world of this like laboratory in which aliens are conducting experiments on people, and Brian is discovering it as he is sprinting through this place as quick as he possibly can, only to come face to face with this giant 2-page splash of him coming out into this spaceship hangar, where he is then immediately once again apprehended.
Mhm. Yeah, and in that world building, like there's something I never really get to talk about, and like part of me wants to leave it up to people who have read it to find it, but one of my favorite things I've done in this, and it's not in the scripts, they don't really ever talk about it, it's just in the visuals, is that these aliens, they're human sized, but they're actually like little green men in human sized robotic suits. So I've like hidden suits throughout the book where they're like on docks being charged or repaired, and you kind of see it with the way these characters move and what they do, where there must be something going on in that, like, they seem to be part uh cybernetic as well. But yeah, this is one of my favorite things I was
It
able
was
to throw
totally
in
your
there.
idea. Yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
tell you to do that.
Oh, I'm gonna have to go back through and check it out. But I love that mix of like the weird, the weird stuff going on, and also that scene where Brian's trying to figure out where he is. Like a lot of it's silent, there's not a lot of like effects or dialogue. So it really feels like he's like sneaking around, discovering things. Like I love Brian's facial acting in that because at one point he comes across an experiment and he's just like, what, like trying to figure out what he's looking at. Like I loved all of those moments, but then one of the things, like I said, the spirit of this book is like kind of after he's captured, it's like been a very like mundane. He's not like just
He's
they're like
unimpressed, right?
they're
Yeah.
playing he's not really shocked by it, and then we find out the alien mob, they're like having, I don't know, they're playing a card game, or what is it in Star Wars, sabacc, they're
Yeah.
they're playing something, and it's just like it's such an odd, like, it looks so bizarre with the different alien characters in it, but it's something that we're like very familiar with. It's like the last thing you would like expect. Like they're going to take
Yeah.
them to whoever's in charge. There's going to be some type of military here. They're going to want to fire in the sky, experiment on him or something. Like they take them to
Yeah.
this game that they're playing. I just loved it. I got such a kick out of it, and I just
And he
thought it was like
joins them.
so much fun. Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah.
He just sits down and he's like, "Oh, I guess this is like what we're doing." I just
Yeah.
I just love it. It just, yeah, it tickles me, and I have such a good time reading it. It's just the last thing I expected. Yeah, and then we cut back and we see like what Wade's doing, and Wade's trying to find Brian, and we see the steps Wade's going through, and that's a whole other adventure. And we get a sense, you've read comics before, you understand that we're leading towards the two of them meeting back up in some fashion. But man, it was such a fun ride. So Lyndon, going from like the first one and then, going into book two, were there things that you wanted to like explore with this? Were like, particular areas of story that you wanted to tell or dive into, or like other influences of yours that you wanted to bring into the Laundrymen for book two?
Yeah, if we look at book one, it was very narrow in scope. It was Brian and Wade together in this sort of almost claustrophobic setting for a lot of that book. Like part of that book, they're just trapped down in a mine with this monster at the same time. And so when we started to plan out book two, Steven and I really talked about wanting to expand sort of the scope of the storytelling that we were doing. So I really wanted to give Steven the opportunity to show how great he is with big action pieces. And, I've seen Steven, Steven and I have known each other for, it's got to be almost 15 years at this point. And I've watched him draw cars like for all of it. And so I always knew how good he was at that. And this seemed like the perfect vehicle, pun intended, to really show that off. This sort of quick paced, bombastic, explosive story where like we literally like blow up that facility at one point. So I really wanted to get bigger with the storytelling, with the set pieces, but I really wanted to keep the character driven aspect of that story. And I thought that the best way to draw a difference between book one and the upcoming, when we were planning it, book two, was, well, we've seen how capable Bryan and Wade are. We've seen the sort of strength of their friendship through book 1, in which, for spoiler alert for the listener who hasn't checked out the book yet, it will also be available on our Kickstarter. Bryan is the one who solves the murder mystery of book 1 before Wade does, and he sort of has to lead Wade to that conclusion because Wade isn't ready to see it yet. So we know that these two characters are close together. So what happens when we pull them apart and we put them in different settings? How does that change the way we characterize them, or the way that they respond to the world around them when they're sort of operating on their own instead of together? And so we're planning book 3 already, and we put Wade and Bryan back together in a really fun new setting. But it really felt like book 2 was the right time for us to separate them while keeping our story moving forward, and really push them in a new way that we didn't do in book 1.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think it was all. I think that was a smart choice. Like I said earlier, and also I like the cast of characters you surrounded them with, and I think that really helps. Because we learn a lot about Bryan or Wade, seeing Wade kind of figure out where Bryan is, and do that aspect of it on its own. And also, I mean, book 2 has some really interesting stuff because we are still, I think, trying to get a sense of how well do Wade and Bryan, know each other. And like throughout this book, we see like Wade learns things about Bryan that he hadn't known before, and that's very interesting, and does a lot for like the character development. But yeah, the characters that you've surrounded them with, I think, help immensely, and make it for a much more interesting story, and really help develop their character. But Steven, you were going to say something. I
Oh,
cut you off.
Oh, you basically said it, but it was like that was kind of the beauty of separating them, is it allowed us to bring in even more characters to flesh these guys out, and give Lyndon more toys in the sandbox for like future books and future stories for different characters to bring in, and help the story along. By separating them, it broadens the scope, right?
Yeah, one of the real strengths of this book specifically, I think, is it really gave us a way to build up the world around these two characters and make it feel lived in a way that we didn't necessarily get to do in the first book. I feel like in the first book, we really sort of set out to establish that there's a history of these characters working together. And in this book, we get to see sort of more of the world that they live in, rather than sort of a really focused case file like we do in book 1. So that was the other real benefit to structuring this one the way that we did.
Yeah, and bringing in like all the different, we'll say, supernatural things that you see in this book also helped build the characters, and like show the audience really who they are and their competency in their work. In that, like, we're talking about the scene where where Bryan gets apprehended and brought up to the mob bosses, and like the look on his face is just like, oh, okay, this makes sense. Like, I understand that it's these guys. He's not surprised when Wade meets his counterpart, like the opposite side of this gang war. He's not surprised. No, they're never really surprised, but you get to see the pressure that they come under in different ways, and it's not really in like the new things that are coming their way. So it's more in like dealing with their
Yeah.
problems.
Right.
And
Well, no,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead, Lyndon.
I was just going to say, on a real craft level, if I'm talking, if the listener here is also a comics maker like we are, the other real thing that excited me about this book was we got to push along the like C and D plots that we had started in book 1. If we recall, at the very beginning of book 1, Wade and Bryan are encountering a werewolf that ends up exploding, and they're really confused about why that is. This book starts to explain about what that is. At the end of book 1, there's in our volume we had a 6-page afterward sort of story that introduced a new character who was investigating vampires, who was a werewolf who was investigating vampires, and sort of this den of vampires that were drugging other werewolves. we finally get to push along that story a little bit more in this book, and that character becomes more central to our story. It's really a that sort of classic comic book writing storytelling style of the A plot being subsumed by the B plot, being subsumed by the C plot, being subsumed by the D plot as the series progresses. And so there's just so much fun in trying to find the different ways of slotting all those puzzle pieces together while still trying to keep the shape of this overall story arc that we're trying to do from book to book.
Yeah, I really loved how everything, fit together. As it all kind of progressed, because you don't there's a lot of this book where there isn't dialogue. There's not a ton of like, oh, here's a big lore exposition dump, which is like always tough when you're like, oh, I got to tell, when you're writing a story and you're like, okay, I got to tell the audience this. I got to tell the reader that. I got to make sure they know this. And it's like, oh, how do I do this other than like, do I have them discover something and just talk out loud as they find it? Do I have a character come in and like do all the explanation? Like, you really don't have like a ton of that. And in the moments where you do have some of those more explanatory scenes, like it's broken up very nicely. I mean, when Wade, I think it's in like the third section, like when Wade gets into the building with all the other guys to try and like look for Bryan, like it's very much almost like a heist kind of like infiltration, where they're going up the stairway, they're in the hallway, like all of those like elements as they're like sneaking in and sneaking around. And I really liked, that balance of it. It really has a nice balance. It's really like really well paced. It moves along at a really good clip. I never felt like slowed down or anything. Like it goes, which is great because it helps propel the story forward as we are, we have our two characters on a collision course to each other. So all of that is really, working very well together. Steven, I had a question. The character that I was trying to look in the preview I had to see, because I could not remember the name of the character that Wade meets that is like helping him.
Yeah.
Was there any particular was there anyone that you like based that on, or like an amalgamation of characters? Because there were sometimes he looked to me, sometimes he came across as like a very 70s like Robert Goulet meets Schneider from One Day at a Time. And
I always said Tom Selleck.
Yeah. He is
there's also some Tom Selleck.
He was specifically Tom Selleck. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He's Tom Selleck as his character from Friends, Richard Burke. There's a shot in that show. He's got a long black coat and like the scarf and the mustache and the hair. And like he's just the perfect age for this character, and I'm like, oh, that's what I'm drawing. And Magnum PI is going to be this character,
right?
And yeah, and like sometimes I lose. There's some panels where it's like, oh my god, that's Tom Selleck, and there's other I kind of lose it. But one thing I tried to keep consistent is Tom Selleck has these like very unique dimples. They're like Y-shaped. And I just made sure they were like always there because he's always sneering and smiling, the character. But yeah, it's definitely it's Tom Selleck.
Oh, Tom Selleck. No, that makes a lot of sense. There's a couple panels in particular. I'm gonna share my screen for a second to tell what I was. So yeah, I know I can share my screen. So there's a couple in particular, and like
yeah.
Yeah. And so I totally thinking about it. I totally get the Tom Selleck, but there was a couple of times where all I could think about was like, is this supposed to be Rob? I'm like, that's way too specific.
I should have said
like,
yes.
Is Robert Goulet a vampire?
I mean, I would believe it, but yeah. So
that's
just
awesome.
Just so you know, that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, I'll take it. I'm gonna tell people Robert Goulet as well. Yeah. Yeah, I love doing that. Like when I'm designing my characters, I don't spend a lot of time trying to like synthesize a human face. I go like my first thought is like, who would play this character in the movie? And then I just draw that guy. Like Wade initially in like the first issue and early this issue, he was like kind of an amalgam of a couple actors and like a stock footage guy, because I just got somebody who had all these angles I could use. But then I can't remember his name, but then he slowly morphed into the guy from Severance. Can't remember his name, but he's also in the new Mission Impossible movie, and just amazing actor. And I'm like, well, like, I mean, I want this guy to play him in the movie, so I got to make sure the casting directors look for this guy.
Okay. Trammell Tillman.
Yes, Jamal Tillman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he plays his character in Severance, Milchick.
Milchick. Yes.
Yeah.
Great character.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Mhm.
So it's been 3 years. I mean, other than working on Laundrymen 2, what the heck have the two of you been up to?
Well, in the 3 years, I guess a lot has happened. We've released several books, whether they're anthologies or the release of the first part of our other series. It's a 2-part series called There Was Another Life. It's about a man who's trying to save the world twice. It's intriguing. But myself, my wife and I had a kid back in 2024, so that like slowed my
Congratulations.
progress. Oh, thank you. Yeah, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
I love being a father. But that kind of slowed my progress down a lot. Probably added a year onto the timeline for sure. But otherwise, yeah, life's just moving very, very fast. Yeah.
Oh yeah. When it's like amazing. I mean, I have 2 kids, and my kids now are 13 and 8. And yeah, it's like it's wild. Like when everyone tells you the same thing. And I mean, the dad experiences, I know, different than like the mom experience. But everyone I feel like tells you like when you become a dad, like the same stuff, and it still doesn't. I feel like prepare you for how fast exactly, it goes.
Yeah.
It's a remarkable. But
Yeah.
I also have an odd. I also look at it, I guess, slightly differently though, because my parents had me very young. So a lot of times people will ask me like, "Can you believe you have a 13-year-old?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, I get it. Like it feels like it's going fast, but like when my parents were 46, like I was 24. So like I could have a 24-year-old right now. So, like I was in law school when my parents were my age. So my kids, like my oldest is in the 7th grade. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, it does. It goes fast, man. So enjoy it
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm enjoying
as
the
much
heck
as
out
you
of it.
can.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
My wife and I are expecting our first this spring. So we'll see if I slow down the way Steven. I keep joking that Steven now gets to do all the things that I've spent the
Yeah.
last 2 or 3 years doing.
Well, congratulations.
Thank
Gosh,
you.
that's so exciting.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, we had a couple books come out. We were in some anthologies. A book called Dire Beasts together.
Great
I
book.
had a book with a friend of ours, Zach Schuster, come out called Hero Man.
Oh, that
And
was in between.
that was in
Yeah.
between. And
Yeah,
then
wow.
last fall, I wrote for the DC Comics Halloween anthology, so I got my first DC writing credit at that time, and I lettered a book called Death Fight Forever last year, which is going to be coming out from Image starting middle of February 18th. So I'm really excited about that.
Well, that's
But yeah,
awesome.
we've
What was the
been
DC experience like?
fast. It was
Yeah,
slow
really?
and then really fast. Yeah, I'd been in touch with an editor there for a couple of years, and I was told when they had space that they wanted to give me a shot writing a short, and when they had space, they would let me know. And they let me know the day after Valentine's, the 15th of February, and I sent in 10 pitches. I got 9 of them were rejected. 1 was accepted. They paired me up with artist John McCrae, who was amazing.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Once the pitch was accepted, it was really fast. It was like I had to write a script in like 2 weeks, and then it went to I did the revisions, and then it went to John, and he had like 2
Right.
months to do the 10 pages, and then it was like, then sit and wait for it to come out. The work's done. Like it was just, it seemed like it happened in such a flash.
Yeah, it kind of went like
Yeah.
silent. Like once all the files were in, it was just like, I guess we just wait till there's books
I
in
guess it's
hand.
done.
Yeah.
I kept waiting for them to email and be like, we actually don't have space anymore.
Yeah.
But that never happened.
That was such a different experience from like doing our own books because like you kept me apprised every step of the way.
Yeah.
But like we talk about the book from the conception to when we have the books in hand. There's always something to think about, like logistics wise with it. But I guess when you're creating something like that for DC, it's just kind of like, here you go. And
Yeah,
then you just wait for them to do all that stuff.
Well, and they paired me with John, who's forgotten more about comics than I'm ever going to know. So
Yeah,
sorry?
you have to write a script. It's like, yeah, you have to write
Yeah.
a script in 2 weeks. By the way, the artist is well known for Hitman and the Demon.
Yeah.
Like, it's
Yeah.
like, oh,
And you're-
okay, no pressure.
and you're doing a Zatanna story together. Like he was going to be awesome no matter what. And so the script I handed into him, I'm like, John, I recognize there's like directions here. They're just what is in my head. Please throw it out if you want to. You're going to come up with something cooler than I can think of. I will make it work. Anything is good.
It's like what Todd McFarlane says. It's like the writer and letter, they can fit that story into 2 panels, 1 panel. If the artist wanted 7, you can do it in 1. Like it.
Yeah. And the really funny story about related to it is that the book DC's Satanic Panic, it came out on October 1st and hit stands, and my family was all excited, and everyone, because people know what DC Comics is. Like in the indie comic space, no one ever knows what anything is, but they knew what this was. So the book came out October 1st, but then on October 7th, 1 week later, we revealed to everyone that we were expecting, and now no one cares. Like let's just talk about the baby. Like the sort of local family hype that I had for that was like gone in a heartbeat, which makes it
No
funny.
one wants to talk about your firstborn. That's crazy.
That's yeah.
Look, you had a solid 6 days there.
That's right. Yeah.
You had a solid 6 days, so that's it. It is funny though that everyone knows Marvel, DC. I mean, it's quite a few people know Image, but my that just happened to me today. I've told everyone about Penny and the Yeti coming out in April. I sent them all the link. Told my family about it. Like, oh yeah, they know that I host a podcast. No one's ever listened other than my brother Bobby. Thanks, Bobby.
Thanks, Bobby.
Hey, Bobby.
Yeah, my sister has someone she knows who is like a manager of a kid's bookstore, and she called me up today. She goes, "Oh, like what's the deal with your book? Like who's publishing it?" And I told her, and she's like, "Is that like just a real thing?" And I guess her friend who's a manager in the background, I guess just thought maybe like my sister was just telling her, "Oh, my brother has like a book and he's just putting it up on whatever."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "No, it's like a real book. It's a real publisher, but it's like so hard to like describe." You're like, "Yeah, it's paper cuts. They're an
they've
imprint of
got
Man
real
Cave."
distribution. Yeah, like you can order it.
They're like, yeah. Like I hear my sister now has abandoned talking to me. She's just talking to her friend. I'm like screaming into the phone, "It's being distributed by Lunar." Like, it's just,
Yeah.
But yeah, that's awesome though about the kids and about DC and about all the stuff that you've had come. I mean, I'll put links to everything in the show notes, and hopefully you're going to be offering, some of the stuff. I know you like Laundrymen 2. We'll have some options for maybe some of your other work as well in the Kickstarter.
Oh yeah.
Totally. Yeah. The Kickstarter is going to have book 1, book 2, basically every other book that we've worked on that we can get our hands on copies of. I think we've got 1 page of original art also because our friend Zach, who did a pinup for us, does all his work analog still, which is amazing. And then, obviously everything is digital. And then we get to play the fun game of what are the tariffs going to be? That's a whole other thing. What's the shipping look like right now? I feel like Kickstarter in that sense is just it's different, right? The world's different than it was 3 years ago when we did this. So I'm excited
Yeah.
to see what it looks like. I keep telling Steven this, Jimmy. I'm terrified of this campaign because we put the pre-launch page up like a year ago, and I came back to it to prep it, whatever, 2 months ago, and I discovered that it had been floating around on, I'm assuming, the pre-launch page of Kickstarter. They have a little tab that shows the projects that are upcoming, and it's got like 300 followers, and I don't know how many of those people are robots. So I have no idea what to expect from this campaign, because anyone who's run a Kickstarter knows as soon as you put a campaign up, you start getting emails from people who aren't real people. And so I just have no idea what this is going to look like once it launches. And that's both exciting and kind of scary.
Yeah. I just respond to all of them. I mean, right now I have so many robot, AI friends.
Right.
That's wonderful.
Who doesn't have
just
robot
embrace
AI
it.
friends? Yeah.
Just embrace it. I mean, I've seen all the robot movies. It doesn't look that bad,
You gotta
it's gonna
you gotta
be fine.
befriend them before they get too powerful, right? So they
You've
remember.
seen Terminator 2. Everybody says
Yeah.
it's going to be Terminator, but nobody ever says, could it be Terminator 2 when he becomes a good guy?
What if it's
Yeah.
what if it's just her?
Yeah.
Oh, that's the Joaquin
that's the one.
Phoenix one. That's a
Falls in
beautiful
love
love
with the
story.
robot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Society
Society
is the villain in that movie.
That's right.
That's true. That is true. It is society, but
Yeah. So it's
Yeah,
been really exciting. Everything's been really
That's awesome.
exciting. And I'm really excited for you, Jimmy. Mad Cave is awesome as far as I'm concerned. We here know about it, so we can tell you how great it is. And
thank you.
And like Mike Martz is over there. He's awesome. Like the books they've done are great. I've read a lot of them.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be over there to be with them. I like the stuff Paper Cuts is doing now. Like I interviewed Trevor Mueller not that long ago, and he's doing like a series of STEAM society books, and like David Pepos. I really love David's work, and the name of the artist is escaping me, but they just had recently come out. I think it was called 10-Ton Titan Terrier, which is like a fun
fun name.
kids robot, like mech suit kind of book. So yeah, I'm excited. It's just like, I don't know, trying to get on shows and do this thing on the other side of it and have to like answer questions. That's the part that I can talk like all day. It's just like having to do it. It has to be exhausting. Like I'm looking at like setting stuff up and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a lot. Like, trying to keep this podcast going, trying to get on other stuff and promote, but
In layers.
Yeah.
So many things. Yeah.
Oh, and like post
And
stuff on
you'll
social
also
media
and you'll come to realize the sorts of questions, like the fun questions to ask, even in your own interviews going forward, and when the sort of the standard questions that you get asked everywhere. Like Steven and I were joking, we think the number of times now that we've asked, like, how did you get into comics? How did you meet each other? What was the first comic you read? Like those answers get so refined. And then every once in a while you get hit with like a good one, like a good question where you pause and you have to think and you have to give a thoughtful response that you weren't prepared for. And those are always the best.
Yeah, I'm just going to give different answers every time. That's my goal.
Like the Joker.
Yeah, I'll just do that.
Yeah. Yeah, different origin story every time.
Well, I want to steal some stuff. What is like the best question you've ever been asked in an interview?
This one.
Yeah. Never had to have an answer for this one. Yeah.
Well, we covered all that stuff, I think, last time. How'd you meet each other?
We did.
How'd you get? What was your meet cute? How'd you get into comics?
We did. Yeah, I think my favorite question that hasn't been asked yet is what I'm going to work on. And it's a way for me to try and talk about how, and I was going to say this earlier, when dealing with a book like this, what I really love about it is the weird ways that we get to sort of twist the lore of things in ways that people aren't expecting. So like in this one, the idea that Bryan sets a trap for the vampires with like in like a steam room with holy water and UV lights. Like, I think those sorts of ideas are fun. And every once in a while, when Steven and I are brainstorming, something like that will pop up. Like, do vampires trigger motion detector lights? The sort of like
Oh.
real world implication questions. And I find though making up those sorts of things to be so much fun. So
Yeah, I never thought of that. Would a vampire trip like a motion sensor light? I'm gonna be thinking about that one for a while.
I mean, I can give you the academic answer, which is that it's like the vampire shadow reflection thing is more related to the sun, like religious symbol wise. And so, yes, they should probably still trip a motion detector light, but it's more fun when you throw those things out and you make up your own lore. So that's where I have a lot of fun with books like this.
That's awesome. Yeah, I have to think that like doing things like that and putting your own spin like on the lore, does have to be a lot of fun and really creative, and because you don't want to do the same thing that we've seen in other comics or TV shows or movies or whatever it might be. I do want to say a couple of things about the book itself before we go and
sure.
get out of here, because as I said before we started recording, my wife is going to start tonight's episode of The Pit without me, and I told her I'd be there. So
And we respect that.
but
Oh yeah.
thank you. I do appreciate that. So there's a couple of things that I wanted to say and point out in particular, that I really loved the colors of this, and in particular, I'm just going to share my screen again real quick to show something. I know it's a podcast, listeners, and you can't see what I'm showing them, but I'll just describe it in terms of one of the panels, where we see Wade kind of like on his bike looking out over the city, and like I just love kind of sitting in this moment. I love the look of it. I love the colors of it. I love the little yellow text box with the dialogue in it. I just thought like this kind of like, I was like, yeah, I would take that print, I'd put it up on the wall like that. I just really love the whole composition of it. So I wanted to just point that out because I really liked it. So
This panel really turned out. I really like looking at it.
You haven't seen it in like
Yeah,
2 years.
Yeah, it like it was such a stressful panel because like I talked about like so many things as I draw. Like I'm always challenging myself to do like a first or whatever, and it's like I was like, well, how do I show like the outskirts or like the more suburbs downtown, and then I want to show
Yeah.
the downtown in the background and like the layers of the image, and it really turned out. I just
It
like
did.
looking
That's
at
what
it.
I'm saying.
He's
That's what I'm
rediscovering
saying. It
his
really-
own
really
art,
did.
dear listener.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. But yeah, listeners, you'll see it when you back Laundrymen Book Two. You'll see it. Wade is on his bike. He's kind of like, looks like he maybe a little bit up on a hilltop, kind of looking out over the outskirts of the town, and it's like the sky is like a bit purple, and it looks really nice. It's very well composed. It's a nice moment to kind of sit in before Wade really gets in the shit, because that's what happens next. And then the culmination, the big fight scene. We've now got all our characters together and all that stuff happens. One of the things that it's tough. I love to laugh. As you can tell, I laugh at all this dumb shit I say on here because I love to laugh. I love making people laugh. I think sometimes with reading a comic, even ones that are supposed to be funny, I mean, I've said this a million times on the podcast, I think comedy's tough to do in a comic. So much of comedy is timing and pacing, and it can be, difficult other than like visual gags or like a really funny, like well-written joke, but it can be difficult. I don't know. I don't know, like it was intentional. It's like a very serious action scene, but made me laugh out loud when Bryan is fighting and rips off one leg of the table, and then like that doesn't quite work, and he has to go back and rip off 2 more legs of the table. I thought that was hilarious. Like, I just thought it was so funny. Like, because he seemed frustrated in that moment, and he's like in the middle of like a really well drawn, well done action scene, but the fact that he like had to go back to the table and rip off like 2 more legs during the fight, I just thought was hysterical.
And I think his
So,
line at
I
that point too is that like, I need to try a little harder, I guess. Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
really got me. I
And
thought
that scene
was
like
so
really
good.
it shows the competence of the characters where he's like, I know how to do this and I'm
Yeah.
winning this fight, but this guy won't go down. And then
Yeah.
that's the problem he's solving. I just love
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was great. So, all right. Well, Lyndon, Steven, thank you so much for coming back. Hopefully, it won't be another 3 years before we get back on here and chat again. But
I hope so too.
Shouldn't be.
the Laundrymen Book Two. It's there'll be a link in the show notes, listeners. February 2nd, it will be on Kickstarter. So if you're listening to this within like the first week or so it comes out, you'll be able to go and get notified or back the campaign right away in the early days. But yeah, I love the concept. I really loved Laundrymen Book One. I think Book Two is really something special. And yeah, you should definitely check it out. So, Lyndon, Steven, thank you so much. And I'm just so excited for all the success you've had in the past 3 years, which includes children. So,
Yeah.
So thank you so much for coming back on. I appreciate it.
No, thank you so much.
Thanks for
Jimmy.
having us
And-
back on.
And congratulations on your own success.
Yeah.
My favorite conversations that I think Steven and I have been doing lately are the ones where we get to talk. Like, it's not just question and answer. So I love that we were able to come back and go
Yeah.
back and forth a little bit on it and really, really dig into all of our experiences. It's just great.
Yeah, I 100% agree. So, so listeners, the Laundrymen Book 2, February 2nd. Thank you so much for listening. Shout out to my brother Bobby, the Cryptid Creator Corner's #1 most dedicated fan. Bobby listens to all my episodes. And,
Thanks, Bobby.
Yeah, thank you so much for.
Hey, Bobby.
He loves when people say when strangers thank him. It's his favorite. It really is. So, thank you so much for listening. I'll see you next time. Good night.